Hello, everyone. We're going to wait just a few minutes as everybody files in. Thank you so much for joining. Hello, and welcome everyone to the presentation of Maximizing the Impact, Effectiveness, and ROI of Live. My name is Vanessa Topzer. I am a Senior Vice President at IMI International. Thank you so much for joining. For those of you where IMI is a new name, just a little bit about us. We are an independent consumer insights consultancy with the core purpose of insight driving profit. We work with clients across industries, across categories, across needs, around the globe, focused on delivering solutions for simple to complex challenges and questions. We work specifically in live and sponsorship, as that's the topic for today, for over 30 years, almost 40, studying tens of thousands of sponsorships, partnerships, activations, messages, and so much more, and measuring over 2,500 properties monthly through our online SaaS platform, SponsorPulse. All of the insight today comes from multiple syndicated, fast custom, and online tools that we have at our fingertips, giving us the ability and our clients the ability to really uncover who to target, how to connect, where to be, and what to say. Always with the focus on what is essential to drive growth and drive you forward. Now, if you've missed any of our previous content, but you're interested in getting your hands on it, you can visit our content site. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen, content.consultimi.com, or you can just give us a shout and we're happy to share it. Coming up next is a focus on promotions in September. And so you're not going to want to miss that one. Now, without further ado, I'll introduce you to Dawn Mayo, who will take us through the presentation today. Then we'll come back with Q&A. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to as many as we can. Thanks so much. Over to you, Dawn.
Thanks very much, Vanessa. All right, you don't need to take notes here because, as Vanessa just said, this is online available. Also, the video is available. But optimizing impact, effectiveness, and ROI of Live. Live's been a passion of mine since as an intern at IMI, 88 Olympics. And we've learned a lot through that time on how to do it right, what's the impact, what to measure, how to measure it cost effectively. So we're going to take you through that now. So 4 things, day in the life on consumers' mind, which I always start with is, how are people feeling today? What are they thinking? What's going on? What's inflation? What's interest rates? What's going on with the job market? You hear about a lot of layoffs now, whereas before it was mass hiring, but unemployment's low. So what's actually going on? Because that's going to impact what people do. The impact of Live done effectively. What if it is done effectively? We'll give you examples of what actually happens, what works, what's going on. Section 3 is quantifying the impact. We'll give you 2 case studies where we actually put dollar values beside it, just to show you how simple it can be if you don't overcomplicate things. Section 4 is we looked at over 40 case studies, give you some best practices. And then section 5 in the back is we had some people ask us some questions. So we answered them specifically. And if we have other questions, please ask them in the Q&A at the top. So let's get going. Sources for this webinar since January 2023, we evaluated over 125,000 consumer surveys through IMI Gen Pulse and Category Pulse, specifically on activations, on sponsorship, on live, on sampling, on XM to see what's going on there. We also looked at 102 brand marketing activations. So where does sponsorship versus experiencing new versus price versus brand versus cause, charity, Facebook, Twitter, 102 different things to look at what actually happens and how impactful it is. We also commissioned a proprietary study. We did 8,500 surveys and asked a simple question: what brands, products, or services you buy because they sponsored a sports team, league, or player? And we did that in the US, Canada, the UK, 8,500 people we looked at, because it's going to tell us a lot about what's actually going on. We also completed a comprehensive study in July last week on the impact of ROI today. Or the impact of sponsorship today, the impact of XM today, whatever you may want to call it, live intercept, what actually happens. And obviously there's a lot of tentacles off of that. So fresh information, lots of people talk to. We don't do samples of 100 or 200. These are thousands of people, so we can segment and provide you the highlights going forward. So let's get into it. So a day in the life. Yeah, and anyone who's been on a webinar before with us, we always go people's attitudes, intention. Financial, obviously a big issue. That recession is supposed to be coming forever. Interest rates obviously up to 4 and 5%, depending on what country you're in. But a lot of talk, and that's what makes news. But what's the actual impact? So how concerned are you with the following issues today? We took 100 issues, looked at the 6 biggest: physical health, financial health, mental health, losing your job, climate change, and becoming infected with COVID, which is still there, but declining. Probably will not be our next session. What's happened in the marketplace? Compared to February 2023, 5 months ago, financial health is the most concern of a lifetime is down 5%, 18%, so 1 in 5, but the same, a bit lower, it was 23%. And the people concerns, 58%, because everyone's concerned about finance. With inflation, what's going on, there's always going to be there, but 18% most concerned in their lifetime. Climate change, 14, physical health, 14, mental health, 13, COVID, 8, losing my job, 8%. 32% are somewhat concerned. So what you look at there is the concern is not like back in COVID. Maybe we've lessened our overall concern rate because of the actual trauma we had for 2020, 2021, and 2022. But when we look at it here, things look pretty good. What happened 6 months ago is what happening today. There's not a massive sea change. There's not a lot of momentum. There's not a lot of negative momentum. In fact, on the right side, you see red, which means it's actually getting better or lower. Now, that was most concerned ever. Now we look at concern now. Most ever, extremely, or very concerned. And what we're showing you here is there's great similarities between Canadians and Americans, more so than most people think and more so than people want to admit. But if you look at it, financial health, 6 in 10. Ability to afford what I plan the next 12 months, again, 6 in 10. Ability to afford to live day to day. We ask questions multiple different ways because we want to actually see, are there consistencies? 6 in 10. Housing, 5 in 10. Friends and families, financial health, 5 in 10. Losing a job, about 3 in 10 in both countries. So the point is, there is concern, depends how you ask it. We don't want to create a situation where there's huge concern where there doesn't need to be. So we see 20% always or extremely concerned because the worst position they've been financially in their life. The other 80% are pretty good. There's always some concern. People always want more money. And the fact is, we're in a pretty good spot going forward, we see for 2024. How about most concerned ever in my life for being able to live day to day? You can see here, the boomers, they're settled. The rest of the people, it's between 23 and 27%. We can still say at least 75% across the board, and less so among the 60 plus. So if your target market isn't that 60 plus, if you're a high net worth investor or something in that area, you're doing, they're not that concerned. So again, there's no subsegments to really be concerned about. How about on the left-hand side? We just segmented by people born in their country and people that have lived here less than 10 years. You can see in both cases on the right-hand side in the red, the newer immigrants into the country have much more concern, which makes sense because they're coming from different disparate places. That should not be a surprise, but if you are marketing to Hispanics in the US, that needs to be somewhat of a concern. Or immigrant population in Toronto, New York, LA, wherever it may be, or Houston, obviously. then you need to consider that they have different issues than the people that have been here or the citizens of the country. We also did it by gender and by income. And what you can see here is females have much more concern. It doesn't mean they have less money. They probably are just more in tune with what's really going on. It's a hypothesis. And on the right-hand side, less concern with people making over 100 grand, which makes some sense. But 100 grand to 50 grand, it's not the affluent. Because if you go to the next, if we look at the next slide, we separate 100 grand, 16%, most ever concerned. 50 to 99K, 17%, under 50K, 29%. So anyone who's making 50,000 or more has the same concern level. It doesn't matter if you're making 400 grand or 50 grand. It's 1 in 6. It's a smaller amount. So the next 6 months for live, or the next 18 months for live, unless something else happens, it looks very good, very promising. There is no surprises that people see. And remember, they're dealing with interest rates. They've been dealing with inflation for 18 months now. So this is not new. They know what's going on. So the future is very bright. So 3 and 4 are not currently severely concerned by the financial reality. That's their important place. The news wants you to think everyone's financially destitute. They cannot work. The homeless problem. I'm not saying the homeless isn't a big issue. I'm not saying people aren't destitute. I'm not saying food banks aren't suffering. The point, though, is you're trying to drive your brand property agency forward. Work on the people that can afford. Not to say not to help the others, but I'm saying that don't be paralyzed by the rhetoric you hear in the news all the time. So and those are hundreds of thousands of people we're talking to. So now let's look at job security. We just threw this in because there's a lot of talk about people getting laid off. So concerned about losing my job, boomers, 11%, because they're there and they're into the retirement phase anyway. You can see it's directly related. Gen Z, half the people concerned about losing their job. That was not the case 18 months ago when they were getting 3 and 4 job offers. So you see there's been a transition. And what happens with concern is some people might not act the same as they would. Among Gen X's, it's 30%. It's not 53, it's 30%. So again, you need to subdivide. If we look at it across the board, we ask concerned about losing the job, same numbers, 53 to 30. But then we also asked increased intention to actively look for another job in the next 12 months. You can see much higher for Gen Zs and millennials. So the fact is, if they're concerned, they're going to start looking. If you run a company, agency property, you should allow your staff or employees, if this is the situation, that you're solid, economically viable, and you don't need to go anywhere. Because this is a situation of concern. Give them some comfort if there is comfort there. Gen Xers much less likely to go and look actively and are not as concerned. Also, if you look at income levels, interesting, the concern level among high income is the same as low income. And the intention to look is the same on high income and low income. So even though they have less concern about being able to afford to live day to day, they act the same regardless of income. So your senior and juniors all require the same treatment going forward. The last page on this is, Anya, what words to describe your family's financial situation? And we compare Jan 2023 to July 23 in Canada. Great, good, or improving. These are open-ended. What words they use? You can see it's down 2%. It's not statistically significant. Don't worry about it. It's a third. Stable, decent, okay has moved from 38 to 48%. So they've moved it through the hurdle. They've moved through the rhetoric. And the fact is they're in good stead. And terrible, struggling, scared, poor is dropped 8%, which is good news. If you listen to the news, or when I listen to the news and read what's going on, you'd think it's actually dramatically be going the other way, but it's not. It's stable and positive. Here's just Canada, US, July 2023. This was tabulated in the last 3 days. And you can see here, Canadian marketplace a bit stronger than the Americans if you look at the terrible, struggling, 3 and 10 in the US, 2 and 10 in Canada, but still not drastic. 75% in both countries think it's stable, decent, okay, or great, good, or improving, and that's unaided. So either way you look at it, what's going on right now, the acceleration we've seen in live, the acceleration we've seen in sponsorship is going to continue, and we believe actually accelerate as we've been calling for the last 18 months. So how about intentions and behaviors? What are people doing? Are they doing more of, less of? And if anyone's been in our live webinars, it showed great pent-up demand for what's going on, and now they have the chance to do it. So getting outside, one of the things that people are passionate wanting to do. We saw that in Gen Pulse. And you look here, this is increase, decrease, not a change. So anything above the line is increase. So Canada, US is in blue, Canada is red. Get outside, up 40%. Go to a beach, significantly higher in the US. They have a lot more beaches than Canada. Fortunate. for them, and go on a hike about 20%. So there's positive momentum. People want to get outside. Think about that when you do programs. Think about that when you do activations. Think about that when you do promotions. People want to get outside. People want to move. They're pent up for too long. They want to move. How about celebrations? Celebrated birthday, wedding, family, up 30%. People really want to do that. It's one of their highlights in life. Go to a restaurant. Even though they might not have as much money, that's what you hear, but the US is very strong. But there's, again, positive momentum. Each one of these is positive. They're going to do more than they did in the past 12 months. And attend a party, less so, not because of COVID, just because some people don't want to be around that many people. How about attending and consuming live events? Why we're probably here. We're going to look at sports, concerts, and live festivals. Are people going out? What we see here is, in the US, we're comparing July 2020, which is up 13%, after we were locked down for about 5 months, to July 2023, which was last week, or actually earlier this week. You can see a massive increase, 25% intend to increase in the next 12 months versus the last 12 months. The last 12 months have been great. They further intend to increase. Live concerts up 30%, from 15 to 30, and live festivals up 24%. So you take the last 12 months, this is the growth since the last 12 months, which have been very strong for us in North America for everything live. And the fact is, if you look at the top, intend to do in the next 12 months, it's 80% across the board of all those things. So 80% want to do it and they want to do more of it. So the point is, jump on. Live is fantastic, whether it's in a festival, cultural, community. This is Canada, same numbers, up about a third, significant increase since being locked down 6 months. So the pent-up demand we were calling for the last 2 years is even accelerating even further. When you look at supply demand, I mean, unless there's a lot more supply out there, we'd assume that some of the prices are going to increase, which we've seen in the past, because there's obviously opportunity on the street. So if we want to look at it, look at this. NHL, Morgan Wallen, they're all setting records. Live Nation setting records. College football attendance records. Local Canadian attendance record. F1 record. Montreal Grand Prix record. World Cup record. Across the board, doesn't matter if it's a movie, women's soccer, Pride, Super Mario, record breaking, the Stampede, Taylor Swift is on the economy, and NHL up 26% with the Canadian clubs. I mean, you don't need to look at research. Look what's going on in the marketplace. This can't happen under significant financial strain. The point is, people are comfortable. Yes, a quarter to 20% are hurting, but the 75% are out spending, and they're going to continue to spend at an accelerated rate, given what's going on. So what was is back and accelerating. Jump on, work on it, identify, and do less rather than more, meaning do fewer things better. Just because there's 8,000 opportunities out there, you don't need to do 7,000. Do a few things really, really well. And a few things for some company might be 50, for other companies might be 5. So let's look at travel. Again, same thing, up 34% for vacation in your country, new up 34% for vacation outside your country, and staying in a hotel up 27%. So travel's up. You can use that for promotions way more than you could back in 2021. And you can up 27, 26, and 12. Again, people are going to be traveling, not only going outside, not only going to live concert events and festivals, but traveling to those things or traveling to live. So people are open to live and now excited to travel to live. And the fact is, the more the better for them. It's what's going to be, it's going to, what they can afford is obviously part of the problem. Purchasing. So now we look at the fact that interest rates up significantly, not significantly if you're my age, when my first house mortgage was 12%, but significantly versus last time. So we look across US and Canada again. To buy a house, increase in tension, the US up 16%, Canada only 3%. So it looked flat, but still doing very well. Buy a car, truck, up 15 points in both countries. Buy a rec product, that's an ATV, UTV, personal watercraft, scooter, boat, up 25%. And they've had record years where they didn't have enough supply. And the point is, it's up through the roof, their intention. Buy vacation property, down 12% in Canada. So now everything's up. No one can afford it, up 13% in the US. So there's where the housing market is a little different in Canada versus the US, as Canada's showing significant gains in real estate prices during COVID, during 2020 to today. So again, no matter how we look at it, intentions to spend, are you going to get your fair share? How does your brand win? How does your agency win? How does your property win? Overall momentum, take all those things, what's going on, who's doing it. So if you look at the aggregate, Gen X's and millennials up 31 and 23% on average. It's up across the board, but young people under 42 or millennials, Gen Zs are going to get out and do more. So that's the people that will be at live. Then if we look at household income, if you're under 50, up 12%. If you're over 100 grand, up 30%. So you have high income and young people, and gender is equal between the two. So people intending to do a lot more in the next 12 to 24 months will be under 45, higher income, all genders, a really, really attractive segment to the over 100 clients we work with. We know that the fact is affluent young is tough to find. And the fact is those are the people that are gonna be on the street, out in the festivals, at the concerts, traveling and enjoying life. So how to engage and intercept? The big thing is, how do you do it? More is not better. I mean, I've been places where the actual intercept time is 15 minutes. It's insane. They can do 4 people per hour. They're open for 12 hours for 3 days. It's like 100 people times the number of VAs versus giving out. So more time with a consumer is not better, but what is acceptable? So we asked this at the top. Will you engage with this? Will you not? Have you never done this? So stop to listen to music, 84%. 83% love music, say it's a big part of their day. 9% won't. Who cares about the 9%? You got 8 and 10. So music that actually people will bring it in. Stop for 1 minute to talk to a rep. So 70% will, 16% won't, 13% never have. Focus on the fact that they will talk. How short can you make it? The optimal time is 3 minutes. Not more than that. 3 minutes or less is optimal to get your message across, make them familiar, make them feel better or different about them, or elevate their experience. Enter a contest, 64%. Way more viable now. Trips, tickets, vacations, whatever it might be, far more viable now. Then we look at sample. Food sample, stop on a street. Interesting today, stop on a street, same as grocery store. Does not matter which one it is. I thought that would be different, but it's not. And we know that many different stores want a clean store policy or don't want you in there sampling. Well, it works. There or on the street, depends what you're offering. Red Bull obviously does a fantastic job. Starbucks in the past done a fantastic job. Coke, many others have done a fantastic job. Tim Hortons. And 8 and 10 love it. 10% will never do it. Sampling is back full. Forget it. I mean, you obviously have to respect health, as you always did, but the point is sampling's back. Pick up a company giveaway, 70% will engage, make it worth your while. The guidelines and best practice on company giveaway is if you would not re-gift it to someone else that you like, do not give it away. We've been to thousands of events. We've seen more low quality, poor stuff given away to people that are trying to engage and elevate. Give away nothing or give away something that you would actually go, that's pretty cool to re-gift. So sponsorship gives brands a permission to intercept fans. Compelling content activation turns intercept into impact. If you don't elevate and engage them, you will not have any impact. And you should not be surprised by that fact. So that's that section. Things are good, they're growing, you can influence them, you can intercept them. There's lots of upside. So how about the impact of live being done effectively? And everything out there from a marketing perspective, some are done great, some are done terrible. And there's a lot of mediocrity, but the good ones continually excel. The good brands, agencies, properties continue to do great stuff over and over again. It's a formula. So how about experience the first time? So purchase after experience the product for the first time in the past 12 months, 150 million people in Canada, US. It's a lot of people. It excites 55 million, excites. So they like to try products. They like to try services. How are you actually engaging new people into the brand? And 55 million intend to start in the next 12 months that it did in the past 12 months. So this number could be 200 million next year. So a massive number of people like to experience. How can you build that experience? How about a brand that sponsors events? Purchase because the brand sponsors something I follow, 100 million people. It's a big number. Growth since January 2022, 27 million up. So it's grown since we're back to open. And 47 more million people intend to start doing it in 2024. So that number could be close to 150 million people. How about brands intercept you at an event? People think they don't like it, and other people do 20 minutes with them. The fact is, if you elevate them, do it. So 92 million people have purchased because you interacted with them at an event. It's a good thing. up 12 million since January 2022, and 32 million people intend to start. So intercepting people will purchase. It's worked in the past. It's going to grow. There's been growth in the past 12 months. There's going to be continued growth. So plan that out and do it well. And how about after sampling your product? 117 million people, up 8 million since January 2022, because grocery stores, they did a lot less sampling, but they weren't closed. And 51 million people intend to start with the right samples. So each one shows strong momentum. This is all XM, sampling, sponsorship, whatever it may be. So let's look at the impact of live versus alternatives. Unduplicated, meaning we take all the things we talked about. 81% of people in the US have purchased a product due to XM or partnership. 71% in Canada. That's a massive number of people that we're looking at. And we look at that in context. So last month, about a month ago, EY started out and saying 49% of Canadians say that brands are no longer important. Well, we look at that in context, and they did a global study, not questioning that, questioning what that's a feeling. The point we wanted to look at was 125,000 people that we looked at, 13 to 65, between Feb 20 and January 23. We're looking at sponsorship in the same vein. Trusted brand name is 201 million people. I don't know how they say 49% don't care anymore, because that's 75% of the population. Special price for a limited time, 179, and seen on Snapchat, 66 million. So that's the difference. We just went through, give you some context. You saw live at 117 to 120 million people. It's lower than price, a lot higher than Snapchat, lower than trusted brand. So what we look at here is trusted brand is #1 ranked of 102 people. So if you saw the article, same number in the US at 49%, you can see below. Brand is crucial. The reason we're saying that is when you're building your activations, when you're building your sponsorship, your brand, building your brand is essential. It drives purchasing. EY is a massively successful global agency or global consulting company. So we just want to put that in perspective to go. It is ranked #1 of 102 things. We can give you the list of 102, and it beats everything. We're trying to find something that's going to beat it. Snapchat ranks 100 of 102. Still 66 million people is a lot. But the fact is, there's a big difference between what's going on. And we break that down because we want to get into this. Experience for the first time, 149 million. Being new, 147 million. Sampling, 133. Brand sponsor, 112. Interact with me at 3 to 105 million. So those numbers, the same person does multiple things. So unduplicated, it's 193 million people in the US and 20 million people in Canada. So we did not double count. If they did two different things, they were counted one, which is unduplicated. That's aided. So we also look at it versus some social media or content, which gets so much money versus sponsorship. And the point is, does it deserve it? The fact is, the great thing with sponsorship and activation is that can become your content for social. You can use it, you should plan for it to be your content. But you look up here, all the stuff in teal, I guess that's that color, if I'm not colorblind, is far higher than YouTube at 103 million, Facebook 101, Instagram 91, TikTok 80, Snapchat 66. The point there is sponsorship works. That's why we do so much work in sponsorship. We work in brand more than we work in sponsorship. Sponsorship does not get the dollars. Properly activated sponsorship does not get the dollars it deserves. It is so effective at driving purchasing. If you care about driving purchasing, it's a great place to be. And it's also a great place to capture content to distribute out. So if we look now, quantifying the impact on ROI, questions we got was quantify for us. So we ask unaided, what brands, products, or services did you purchase due to a brand sponsoring sports, a league, team, or player? A tough question. A lot of times it's just blanks. Most times just blanks. So which brands, products, or services have you purchased in the past 2 years due to a brand sponsoring athlete, team, or league, if any? 8,500 people. Massive sample size. US, Canada, the UK. One question's unbiased, unprompted. There's no pre-information. They're not thinking about brands. It's a question we go and ask people. So what percent of people 18 plus do you think named at least one brand? 6%, 16 million, 16%, 43 million, 36%, 96 million, and 66%, 176 million. They bought, this is unaided, people actually type in what brands they bought, what percent bought, and the number is 66%. 2/3 of people unaided can name a brand. And in fact, 50% name 3 products, brands, or services they've bought in the past 12 to 24 months because of it, or because of sponsoring sports. US 66%, Canada 62%, and there should be 65 out there, 65% in the UK. It is amazing how much Anglophone countries are similar. Whether it's Australia, the UK, Canada, or the US, it's amazing how similar and consistent we are. Over 1,400 brands, products, and services were mentioned as being purchased due to sports sponsorship. We didn't talk about cause, we didn't talk about music, we didn't talk about festivals or lifestyle or community. This is just sport. 6 in 10 have purchased due to the sports sponsorship, and over 75% purchased 3+ brands due to it. So now we looked at the brands. What's going on with the brands? We also looked at the age. 18 to 29-year-olds, 82% have purchased because of sports sponsorship. 30 to 50-year-olds, 73%, and less so among 50+. 20% don't like sport. The other people are obviously impacting and purchasing. If there's any question if it works, ask any question. You'll get blanks. We've got blanks. We've got 99% blanks before. But this is a phenomenal result for how impactful. So top 10 brands purchased due to sports sponsorship. Who do you think they are? So here they are. If you know anything about unaided awareness, 10% is excellent. 5% means you're live, and 20% is gold, best in class, checkered flag. 26% mentioned buying Nike because of sports sponsorship. In the US, 20% in Canada, and 26% in the UK. That's unaided, not aided. You ask that for TikTok or Snapchat, which we're about to do, or other factors, you will not get a big number. But 26% for one brand is unheard of. It is phenomenal. And that's why they continue to own and do so well. They're also the number 1 or 2 favorite all-time brands, if you ask that question, across the board, and continue to be there. Other brands, Adidas, Tim Hortons, Gatorade, Coke, Under Armour in Canada. You got Gatorade, Coke, Under Armour, Pepsi, Amazon, Bud. You can see there's a sea of sameness, even in the UK. Very similar brands. Puma comes up there. Red Bull's in 3 of them, or in 2 of them. Heineken's up there. Reebok comes up. But it's not that different, because good brands that know what they're doing do it over and over again with tremendous success. And these numbers are successful, or hugely successful. Let's look at age. 18 to 29-year-olds, 31% when asked which brand, product or service you buy because of a sports sponsorship of an athlete, team, or league, 31% wrote in Nike. 29% among 30 to 50-year-olds. Phenomenal numbers. We go down the list again, and there's thousands of brands listed, but Nike obviously is the best in class. If you want to know who does the best job, they have. They've been doing it for 30 years, so it just doesn't come overnight. So let's look at the ROI based on the 2023 brand impact. So unaided brands purchased due to sponsorship of an athlete, team, or league. Here's the US, Canada, UK, 26, 20, 26. These are the number of people 18+. You don't count people less than 18 because they weren't part of the sample. So you end up with 67.6 plus 6.2 plus 14.3, 88 million people. Every CFO would buy that because unaided question. Not aided, not biased, no pre-bias, no mention of Nike, just sport. 88 million people bought because of it. What does that mean from a ROI perspective? So follow through with me. If we look at USA, if we say it's worth $5 a person, that's how much it was in the past 2 years. Now we work with the clients and the brands and the agencies say, what is it? We have our action stance. We'll tell you the number. It's certainly not $5. It's much more than that. It depends on what category it is. For a car, way higher than a apparel brand, way higher than a soft drink brand. So it depends on what category you're in. But the point is, if you look at this, if it's $10, that whole proposition in the past 2 years has driven $881 million of value to Nike. It's probably close to 30, even though shoes probably averages would be 100. The incremental value, I mean, new people, that's $2.6 billion in the past 2 years out of their $45 billion. So take half of it because it's 2 years, 1.3 billion out of their 40 billion. That's just for those 3 countries. If you did the world, that number would be significantly higher. You want to measure ROI that every CFO will embrace, that the CMOs will embrace, ask it unaided, unbiased, no question before, identify what's going on. And the point is, these are phenomenal numbers. I'll warn you though, a lot of brands show up with 0% unaided linkage, independent of how long you've sponsored something that they've purchased. So be careful. but don't be afraid. The point is it'll teach you something. It might be who you feel better about, a different unaided question, and we can work with you on that. So now we ask, please list all the brands, products, and services that you're aware of that sponsor or partner with the NBA. Here you've got 52% of the people 13 plus, 290 million people, 162 million people could name Nike unaided associated with the NBA. What's the value of that? Again, it's over $2 a person because aided awareness is between 50 cents and $1, but it's going to be somewhere in the $5 to $10 range. That's 812 to 1.6 billion additional dollars. Now, it's not all additional because you can't double count. I won't get into that right now, but it's probably about half that. So massive returns on investment that you can bring to say, what's the whole portfolio worth, not just one part of it. So reality to consider, all types of marketing efforts at times can be exceptionally effective or have no impact. The same thing. So don't throw something away if it doesn't work once. Make sure it's optimized. Measuring ROI is not rationalizing investments, which often happen, we get called in afterwards. Rather, it's consistent objective measurement of the key objectives your brand team has defined prior to launch. What are the 1, 2, 3 things you want done? The third thing is every brand team inherits investments that do not make sense from an ROI perspective. Typically from the C-suite or the board where they invest in things because there's some other reasons why they're investing. In these cases, we strongly recommend you focus on transparent improvements in ROI, meaning here's the ROI fact, let's take it out of the equation, but how do we improve it? Focus on the positive. And if you want ROI, you need the discipline to ask the right questions to the right audience at the right time. Don't do what's convenient, do what's right. Go to unaided. Don't in your booth ask them which brands you know that sponsor because they're in the booth. Don't ask them the day of, are you going to buy this car? Because they'll claim they are going to buy the car and they'll track it back and they won't have bought that car. So you have to ask the right questions, the right audience, the right time. It's not that difficult, but lots of people don't want to be measured. And the last thing is simply, what does success look like for this investment? One or two things. What must occur for this investment to be deemed successful? And I'll tell you right now, they might not say it's for sales, but if you can drive sales or action towards your brand or consideration, every time you'll be gold. And it's not 3, 5, or 8 things. What one thing must happen? That's the key. What do you have to accomplish? And then you can build your second and third and fourth, but not try and do 10 things at the same time. It's simpler than we think. So we're going to move over, very positive, huge numbers, Nike alone, US, Canada, and UK, probably in the neighborhood of $3.5 to $4 billion in purchasing value in the past 2 years. So let's measure some case studies. We looked at 40 different case studies. We have thousands of them. Quick thing on search out more information. Are they interested? Are they positive towards your brand, impact, image? Consider a buy, which is crucial. Will they increase consideration? Is it better than competition? Because that's why people switch and you have to stand out. And will they talk about or amplify? We're just going to work through some, again, each one quantitatively tested using certainty, which is our concept testing model on events. So what's the top 4 for stop or search for more information? If you look at it, everyone offers value or there's a wow factor. You got 4 concert tickets for $80. People want to go out. 43% will stop, search. 43% of people. Say yes to a free Coke. If you scream or talk loudly into the billboard, it'll give you a free Coke. Here, Stella gives you fries with a beer. And over here, we went back and tested something from Red Bull from 8-10 years ago, and it's still a wow factor that did search for more information. So if you give some value or you do something exceptional, people will stop and search. How about not search? You've got on the left-hand side, Lucasade Sports. Not saying it's not great for the people that stop, but they're going to search for more information because it's an interactive transit board. Verizon, a viewing music deck, which doesn't provide any value outside of that day. It provides value to that day to those people, but afterwards it doesn't. A slip and slide with Lipton, yeah, it's yellow, yeah, it makes some sense. But they're not going to search for more information, so it's only impacting the people. That is not content usually you can use after that. And then create your own sound with some AI the day of. So if you do it the day of, it works, but each one of them does not provide extreme value where you saw the other ones give away the product. How about I'd feel more positive? You got Coke say yes again, skincare pop-up where they get smoothies and skincare samples. Domino's uses the jetpack to create an exhibition around it. And Ashley does a beach retreat at an event to show them what a beach retreat would be. So they feel positive. They're doing something different that actually brings them. Each one's adding value to the consumer, whether it's a guy in the jetpack doing that or actually a place to lounge. Does not matter. We're free products. Each one's positive. If we look at, again, here's 27% feel more positive. Go back to something we tested a while ago. Canadian Tire is committing a minimum of 50% of sponsorship dollars towards women's professional sport by 2026. Positive towards 34%. So 27% is not even close to how high you can get. But again, I just want to call out, do something good for people, and you'll be rewarded as a brand. I'd feel more positive towards bottom case studies, a Jack Daniel's screaming t-shirt, Walking Dead promotion, again, the deck, or a music fitness class with Michelob Ultra. Again, there's no longevity to that. That's a one and done type thing. Not saying it doesn't work, just saying it's not going to have legs outside of the event. Better than other companies' actions, the Sphere Stadium, which is in Vegas, which changes all the time, new, remarkable. Skin cancer screenings, new, remarkable. Social swipe billboard where you swipe your credit card, and if you can see in here, it's actually a slice of bread that you're actually slicing off for somebody fed. And then adult strollers, where adults actually get into strollers, which is new and inventive, and that's where they go. If you look at talkable with friends and family, from pride to free products to, again, to the relief. I know I'm taking up a bit more time, so I'm going to we got all this stuff in here, and we'll provide it. So summary steps to effectively measure ROI. Who are you trying to impact? Employees, key stakeholders, government, your customers, high value customers, or competitive customers. All 6 provide value, and people typically forget employees and key stakeholders and the value you can bring them with great sponsorship. What are you trying to accomplish? Change attitude, how they think, emotion, how they feel, action, what they do, or loyalty, what they buy. What are you trying to accomplish? You can't do all 4 of them. What are you trying to get? Everyone wants them to buy, but you might not be able to do that if you're a telco or a car company. So you need to do something a little further up the funnel. Know what you're spending in which areas for which assets. The amount of time it takes for us to get the actual investment numbers off clients and agencies is a long time. I'm not sure we always know exactly what the investment is. It's crucial to total up all the different areas where money's being spent and isolate the actual impact of the incremental investment where possible. So if you didn't do it at the bottom, what would have happened if you did nothing? That's the real equation. You can isolate it. Test control, you can isolate what's going on. Unaided, you can isolate what's going on. There are ways to isolate that are simpler than many people think there are. So again, really effective, really strong momentum. People are showing great successes. You can pre-vet successes if you want. You can post-identify ROI. It all is in there. So in summary, this is just a little cheat sheet. Number 1, don't measure everything. Only measure what's essential and know what success is day 1 of signing up. Demand transparent metrics your CFO and CMO will embrace. Don't bring in 18,000 different metrics. Make sure you pre-sell them on the metrics. Be biased towards unaided responses and aided incremental actions. Unaided is unbiased. Actions is towards the brand. Know how you will quantify while planning your activations. So you do something, how are you going to be measuring it? How are you going to report back? Is it worth it? Shouldn't do more than 3 things. So embrace less is more. Don't do 4, 5, 6, 7 different activations. And the rule of 3 is no more than 3. And there's about 10 different rules of 3 in there, but never more than 3 activations at one event. Quantify based on cost per person impacted. That's the impact. That's the key. How much it cost me to a person to think differently, feel differently, act differently. Demand continual ROI improvement or fire agencies, the XM and measurement. We should work with you to understand your needs, what you want to do, and show continual improvement each time by the science behind it, with the art behind it, to continually drive. And don't bother measuring programs with an activation broadcast budget. It's a waste of time. We asked last time, you'll get nothing. If you just have wallpaper up, which is signage, unless you're a brand new brand, you'll have no impact. And don't double count or credibility be lost. You saw with Nike, the increased awareness and the increased purchasing. Well, anyone that purchased was already aware. You can't double count and actually get impact. I know I went a little bit over. Thank you very much for your time. Now to the Q&A.
That was amazing, John. Thank you so much for taking us through all of that. We are going to stay on for a little bit longer if everybody wants to stay on, and if you can't, we understand, but you will get the deck and you will get the recording. So a couple of things that really stood out to me. We talked about this in 2020, and I believe at the end of 2019 is, we're in the roaring 20s again. It's actually real. We saw the pent up demand. It's happening. Brands matter, number 2, and sponsorship works. but only if it's done well. So make sure that you check all your boxes and you do everything well. So we do have some questions actually before we get to, some people did ask questions when they registered. And so we wanted to make sure that we answered those. So we have those. But before we get to those, Dawn, there are two key ones. One is, what year did mental health start making the list in terms of concern? I think it was 2016, 2017 when we really started hearing about it.
It'd be about 8 years ago, but if you actually went into youth, they talked about bullying a lot, which is causes mental. So until we actually, it's probably been around since 2010. To be real, we probably didn't have the right terminology behind it. So now when we look at mental health, we look at a whole bunch of different factors, but it's between 6 and 10 years is a big issue, much bigger among youth than it is older. And it comes out in a lot of different ways, much bigger among small business owners than it is among non-small business owners. But so again, 6 to 10 years, we have a whole thing on that Laura Janes leads in our company that talks about that and looks at a bunch of different dimensions of it. We'd be happy to help there.
And trusted brand name, I wanted to touch on this because someone is talking about trusted brand name feels much more of an outcome of long, like years, series of efforts and experiences than many of the other 102 purchase drivers. And I wanted to touch on that really quickly, because I think that sometimes we think of, well, one, it takes 5 years to build a trusted brand on average. However, I think we always think about trusted brand as big, and it doesn't have to be big. It could be small. It could be as small as a one-on-one reco that can help build trust in a brand. So yes, for the bigger brands, it's years and years of long effort and big spend, but trust can be big and trust can be small. So I just wanted to clarify that point. And I don't know, Don, if you had anything to add to that.
Yeah, trusted brand definitely does grow over time. The thing that, to be frank, irritating about the EY was it's saying brand doesn't matter. Well, brand does matter. It's the only thing that differentiates you from price. So if you don't have so if your brand's not strong, how do we get it strong? What are the stepping stones for the next 3 years? If it's super strong, how do we maintain or get it a bit stronger? But it does take years. Some of the other things don't take that many years, but I just don't, I don't understand the amount of money going into digital social versus brand building factors, or which sponsorship, activation, sampling, experience leads right to purchasing. And it leads to great content. So, I mean, it's just, and we have we don't care what you do. We want you to be successful. We're not an agency that actually delivers anything. So whether it's brand or sponsorship or promotion, we do them all. We measure them all. So again, build a brand. Yes, it costs money, but every time you're out there, you're supposed to have a positive experience. No different than a restaurant, hotel, or anything else like that.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, so we have 5 questions that came in when people registered. So wanted to get through those. The first was, can you share some brand partnership successes with us? What have been really successful based on what we've studied?
So you look at the top unaided brands, Nike and the NBA's one, or the top unaided, like you look at Adidas, Lulu, Red Bull's in there, Coke's in there, Pepsi's in there. Adidas and FIFA. We saw 29% purchase Adidas because of FIFA World Cup. That's unaided again. We saw Banks in Brazil, massive. Scotia in the NHL, and it's just not the NHL, it's hockey in general, has tremendous impact. TD and Pride, phenomenal. If you actually sub-segment the Pride group, the people that support and follow and attend LGBTQ plus events, the affinity towards TD is phenomenal. The actual brand strength towards it, but they've been committed and owned it for so long. CTC and women, I mean, that's moving, and people love that factor. It's interesting, men are actually stronger supporters than the women of CTC women's endeavor. Verizon, the NFL, there's a question mark there. They spend $300-500 million. It's tough to pay out. They certainly are not Nike. They didn't even show up at 1% in the top brands with sports. So the $300 million, it might work some cases. That'd be one that I'd say you'd have to question.
Yeah, CTC and women's definitely is getting a lot of exposure and a lot of swell right now. It's pretty amazing. So question 2, will you demonstrate actual ROI results And we'd really like to understand how we calculate ROI with these live interactions. So one in the same, and I know that you have something to show the team here.
So for 20 years, we're doing half-day workshops to bring ROI to clients because every client's different. They have different metrics. There's 4 fundamentals: attitude, emotion, action, and purchasing. So we did this here with the fact of right there is an ROI. Pick your number. We have numbers. We work on dollars per. I don't want to tell you what the numbers are I'd use for Nike, but those are 3 sets. The ones, sorry, I don't want to tell Nike what to use because they'll have an internal number, but what you want to do is compare that to anything else they spend money on. And over here, same thing. Like, what's the number? I know it's not $2, could be 7, could be 8, but pick a number and always measure it that way. So this is just this is simple. The point is you can make it really simple. Most companies, we probably have 10 or 15 different metrics because different people want to do different things. You want to measure everything on the same ruler. And the point is you can measure it. When you see $2.6 billion, you know there's something there. When you see $1.6 billion, you know there's something there. So again, not everything's this rosy. And I was surprised at 65% unaided, like, and 25%. I thought it'd be 10% and 40%, but that's a fantastic number.
It's a fantastic number. What's the best way or some ways of showing the sponsor that the XM was the reason for the client to switch brands? That's a question that keeps on coming back to us.
So first of all, you can't show unless it's fact. We will not take a brief, just being frank, that says, show them, demonstrate to them that people switch because of this activation. We can't do it unless it's actually fact. You must eliminate all other media touch points, because people sit around and go, it wasn't your activation, it was my digital. Oh, it was my in-store, it was my design. So what you need to do is remove everything else out except what's done in sponsorship. And how we do this: test control. People that were actually intercepted by the brand or by the activation, and people that weren't, or were intercepted by every other piece of marketing material by them. The difference between the two will provide that. Also unaided. You can ask them, we ask lots of unaided questions. What brands do you know of? What brands do you feel more favorable? What brands do you increase consideration? What brands do you talk about? You can go through unaided with that group that was on site. Again, we'll give you bulletproof information. Transparently, 25% of XM sponsorship does not work, but it's far better than the performance of digital or mass, which is 52 and 41% respectively. But 90% of all XM activations can be streamlined to repurpose budget. So it can be repurposed to actually give more money into what's going on. Utilize your team partners to inform and or capture, meaning you already have assets on the street, capture the information. Don't hire research consulting, whatever, when you don't have to, or have a research consulting company that will work with your assets. And ask us for help. There's $0 for talk. So we're happy to help anyone there. So how do you measure? No two brands. Measuring a car company, measuring an EV company versus measuring a soft drink company or a clothing brand or a pain relief patch. Totally different metrics, but the same process. All you need to do is understand what's going on there.
Yeah, and isolating is so important. I remember, from the brand side at Coke, we were constantly asked the question of what is it that's actually impacting our brand health results, and because we had needed to track brand health. And it was really essential that we always isolated the different components of the activations that we were doing, whether it was XM, whether it was a brand ad, whatever it was that was in market at that time. You have to isolate it to really understand if it's working or not. The fifth question is, I know this is about live will accelerate and work, but can you give me a 101 on AI? And we've been talking a lot, obviously, about AI internally and hearing a lot about it externally. So we're really happy you asked this question, because we're excited to share some of our thoughts on it.
So we're actively out there. We're going to do a webinar shortly on the impact AI may have on agencies, on consulting companies, and what can be done to embrace it, not pushed away. So, interested in AI? Just a quick question. Are you interested in AI? Males, 46% yes. Females, 36%. I'm so engaging. I thought that number would be 90%, but it's not. Gen Z is much higher than boomers, but boomers still a third. I mean, from 34, it moves up to 49%. 100K plus, 52%. Less lower income. So younger and higher income, again, are into what's going on with AI. how excited are you about AI, artificial intelligence, and the impact it'll have on you and your family's life? Not about work. And you can see at the bottom, 49% and 40% are not excited at all. 21% are somewhat excited. Most excited I've ever been in my lifetime, 8 and 4%. There's 12% that love everything new. Extremely excited, 11 and 13, very excited, 11 and 13. 3 and 10 are excited. 3 and 10 are excited, 2 don't care, and the other 5 are not excited at all. So again, we'll look at it ongoing longitudinally, what's happening, how they're using it, what the latest ones are. We've evaluated probably about 300 different programs to date. And the claims are a bit stronger than what actually happens, but some of the stuff, anyone's used it, is amazing. It's amazing. How about fearful of AI? We look at a direct line, 19% of Gen Zs are fearful, 44% of boomers, because they don't know. 35%, it's just a straight line up. And the point is, as they educate more, they're going to learn that, you know what, you better understand something about it. It's going to be an exciting evolution. There's going to be ups, downs, sideways, but there's no options here. But it's going to transform a lot of businesses. So we look at that. And we did something on, and I do have some stuff on ChatGPT, which is about 4 to 11% used. We have a Midjourney, we got Bard, we got other things. So I have some more information on that we'll be sharing through LinkedIn. And we're going to do a webinar later on this topic as we figure out how we can actually help inform rather than have fear out there, what's going on.
Yeah, I think if you don't know it, then you just expect the worst. I mean, that's human nature.
It's finances. The fact is 75% are going to continue on with strong momentum. But if you read the papers, you look at it social, you go online, you listen to the news channels.
There's the drama.
We're not going to be in a very good shape.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for their time. Very much appreciated. And it was great to have so many people with me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And we'll see you in September. Have a great rest of your summer.